The Folk Tales of the Mountain Backdo. The Black Dragon has finally been executed. Hello. Today, in honor of the news of the execution of the evil Black Dragon, we have set up a special corner room. In the real world, such a Black Dragon has not disappeared, but as much as that the meaning of the Black Dragon in our human life is very deep. Of course, the meaning is that the more we come to modern times, the deeper the consciousness of problem is cast. So, today, let's take a look at the painful aspects of modern civilized society through the story constituents of the Black Dragon that we have watched so far. The theme of the discussion is we must defeat the Black Dragon and achieve peaceful unification. Please participate actively in this discussion through comments. We must defeat the Black Dragon. I would like to thank Father Bernardo for giving me such a comment on the third video, The Stone Pillar a Dragon Was Tied Up, the first part. I posted the following reply there. I guess so. Why do the Black Dragon and Cain endlessly appear in human history? So is the civilized society also the wilderness? When will the society of where all is peacey will come to our people? Oh, we can still hear his voice in the wilderness, the voice of him that crieth in the wilderness. So, in the second story, the Dragon Palace in the Qianji, when I think of God who listens to Changwu's prayers, I feel comforted and hopeful. Thank you, Father Bernardo. Especially in this highly developed society of mechanical civilization, such a Black Dragon phenomenon is prominent. However, for the most part, the various fields are like that. The problem suggested to us from the story of the stone pillar that a dragon was tied up is the limit of the mechanical legalism. Originally, the idea that the Dangan, the founder of the Korean people, put forward to our common people was the Hongik human, and that idea had been practiced peacefully in everyday life by the people. At that time, in the process of that practice, there had been no need to depend on the mechanical system of the law like as that operated in the civilized society. The Hongik human means that let's be of great benefit to mankind generally. As we can see in this sense, at that time, the people had been living a life of realizing peace, loving their neighbors and enriching each other. By the way, the phenomenon revealed in civilized society, both East and West, was the exact opposite. Instead of loving their neighbors, they hate each other. Instead of enriching each other, they take away each other. And instead of realizing peace, they are destroying the lives of mankind by causing war. This is happening all over the world we live in now. The devastation of war in Ukraine and the Middle East has always disturbed our future, and the dangers of war around the Korean peninsula are the same. In the folk tales of the Mountain Backdo, the evil deed of the Black Dragon is not limited to any region or epoch, but from time to time, from place to place. It deeply warns the whole civilized society. The method that the Black Dragon manipulated and destroyed the evidence to avoid conviction was also uncommonly used by the wealthy and powerful in modern society. Moreover, in the era of dictatorship, the rulers used to do such violent things without hesitation in order to eliminate political enemies. It is also clear that the results were revealed by war. In modern times, Napoleon, Hitler, and Hirohito are typical examples. It is needless to say that this result, which has been revealed both in the East and the West, has devastated the peaceful relationship between the state and the state by promoting the imperialist ideology as well as the relationship between the individual and the individual. The common people of this land, the people of God, are still crying all over the world because of such power and capitalist violence. In fact, the necessity of that we must defeat the black dragon and the will of mankind to do so is nothing new. It was a sentence that always came out every time a revolution happened, every time the war ended. However, whether the problem was triggered by the black dragon or Cain, the flow was always same. It was the reality of civilized society that the black dragon executed in the distant past, and the descendants of the deported Cain were constantly revived. Of course, so is the resistance to it and the repetition of the revolution. So what we have now is a question of who should be the subject of such resistance. It is not a special class, but the general people, the people of the Okwang-Sang and the people of God should be the subjects. Of course, it is not necessary to think of the people of Okwang-Sang, the people of God, limited to any particular region or specific nation. The relationship between oppressing and being oppressed in civilized society has been a universal problem for thousands of years, but it still persists. However, even when the people were the subjects, they had never achieved perfect results at once, exactly fit for God's will. In the process, a number of problems were emerging, and we can find a good example in the Bible. It happened in the wilderness when Moses led the people of God, who were persecuted in Egypt, to Canaan. While Moses went to pray to God, the people made an idol. Of course, it was not because of the personal interests of the leader Moses, the desire for power, and the material desire, but because of the foolishness and fear of the common people. That is what the people did of themselves in a level that they were the subjects. However, when we look back on how such a cause has been revealed in times since then, it is clear that it is not only because of the foolishness and fear of the people that human life is not carried out equally and peacefully. When they came to Canaan, the promised land, leaving Moses in the wilderness, they never met a true leader like Moses. In the days of the king's reign, the identity of the ruler who pursued private interests by taking advantage of the foolishness and fear of the people gradually became clear. As the days of David and Solomon, who had more advantages than defects, passed, such aspect was becoming more and more evident. The land of promise was divided like this, and the people who were persecuted in the process were scattered into the wilderness again, into the wilderness of civilization, and did not achieve a peaceful world based on equality, and constructed the so-called world of the diaspora. In this aspect of civilized society, especially in the structural contradictions of modern capitalist society, it is more difficult for a person like Moses to come out of high society than that a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. It should be reminded that it is never a wrong word. Moses was abandoned in the river shortly after his birth, and Jesus was born in a stable. Moreover, Jesus was a marginal man who was a carpenter in the outskirts of the town. It has been proved in the Bible that it should be the subject of resistance and reform in the general people of God, not in a special class. In that sense, Moses and Jesus were the great revolutionaries of their time. The tragedy of civilized society was caused by the appearance of many black dragons, taking advantage of the foolishness and fear of the common people, and using the rule of law to kill such true revolutionaries. Nowadays, in most political circles in the world, the issue of utilitarianism based on the public interest has become a strange concept. Whether on this side or on the other, we are all trapped in the logic of the camp with our own interests in mind. Of course, the pursuit of self-interest includes the will of the foolish people who showed up in the time of Moses. Therefore, in Eastern thought, taking over Confucius's teachings, it is said that the man himself is more important than the rule of law. It means that the person must not be in conflict with the way. That is, the politician must be faithful to mercy, righteousness, courtesy, and wisdom, and only so he can spread together with people the peaceful age that mankind has pursed in the meantime. It is a problem that leaders like Moses and all the common people must realize together. This is a teaching based on the principle of nature, that the way of human is sensitive to the matter of politics, and the way of the soil is sensitive to trees. In this respect, a political act that relies solely on institutions such as the rule of law is merely accompanied by the premise that the human is inherently evil. It is worth recalling that the more overwhelming and positive influence on mankind was not the ethical view that human nature is fundamentally evil, but that human nature is fundamentally good. How God treated his people with love is evident in the cry of Isaiah. Of course, God's love was based on righteousness, and it was fully manifested in the wilderness in the days of Moses.
Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem, and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice of one calling, in the desert prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the wilderness a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places a plain. Isaiah 41:4.
It is a clear cry of God's love that leads his people to an equal world and a peaceful world. It contains God's strong love that will to get his people out of the wilderness, in this harsh world, and out of the field of punishment. So Jesus was born in a poor place, lived poorly, practiced his own life to endure all kinds of suffering, and then out of this land in the form that he was cut off by the black dragon. However, the black dragons have been constantly appearing since then, and have trampled on such people, Jesus one by one. How long should the crying of Isaiah continue? Now we, the people of God, and our good people who follow the way of the Lord, should cry out and do so. Of course, there is no racial limit or nationality limit on the way. Jesus told us to spread the gospel of peace to the end of the earth and to all of God's creatures. In a feast together with the immigrants of the Christmas season 2007 held at the Dawadong Catholic Church of the Daejeon Diocese, Let's recall the scenes of performance of two mothers and two sons performed by the theatrical troupe Lauded Dominum, and the scenes of post-feast. The song Comfort Ye My People in Two Mothers and Two Sons is the first aria of an oratorio, the Messiah, composed enthusiastically while praying to God when Handel, the mother of Western modern music, was in a state of need. The lyrics are from the King James Version of the Bible. God's love, the peace of the world will be achieved in the process of comforting each other as people of different countries go beyond ideology and hierarchy and all join together as God's people. The same is true of the founding ideology of the Korean people, the Hongik human. It contains the hope of all mankind living hard in modern civilized society. Currently, the situation in Korea, the only divided country in the world, is closely linked to the world peace order. Peace on the Korean peninsula is the basis for world peace. This is a task that has been advocated by conscientious intellectuals since the end of World War II in 1945. However, it was ignored by some of the black dragons that appeared from both sides, and the aftermath has been harassing not only Korea but also the people of the world for 80 years and is driving the threat of war. So, we pray earnestly that not only Koreans but also the world will participate in finding a way out of this threat of war. Korean people love good and peace. They have been fighting against the forces of evil for 5,000 years, seeking peace and building good. Korean people desperately want peaceful unification, not a war between the two Koreas. Peace-loving, longing peoples of all parts of the world join us passionately in that aspiration. The folk tales of the mountain Bakdu contain the lives and emotions of such Korean people just as they were. On that level, the folk tale of the mountain Bakdu is indeed the archetype of the human life. So is the dream of the people spouting up in the process of forming the Chae of the mountain Bakdu, and the devoted brotherhood of the sky and the gratitude of the red carp, which were shown to us in the story of the dragon in the Cheonji, give a deep lesson to modern people living hard in the wilderness in a complex civilized society. Our peace-loving God's people will have to defeat the cruel acts of the evil black dragon on the creatures in the story of the Cheonji and the stone pillar a dragon was tied up. It is the will of the present progressive and it is our common language. We hope that such a language on the mountain Bakdu will become the language of peace for the people of the world.
O God, prepare the way for your peace-loving people to join you passionately in it.